Hello and welcome back to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video, we're going to be concentrating on Philip Larkin's work, Coming. For now though, I want you to join my tribe and hit subscribe for all things English, literary and grammatical. So this particular poet, Philip Larkin, is famed for avoiding limelight. As a modern poet, he was offered many opportunities, including being poet laureate and lots of glitzy opportunities abroad to speak on poetry and lecture. Instead, across his life, he published 4 volumes of poetry: North Ship, The Less Deceived, Wits and Weddings, and High Winds. Now, in reality, he chose to work as a librarian at the University of Hull, and in a way, this is a great opportunity for him to comment on modern life with the traditional overthrows of both rhyme scheme and poetic devices. But in a way, that leads him closer to unearthing what critic Brownjohn describes as profoundly disturbing realities. So this particular poem comes from the second collection, The Less Deceived, that was published in 1955. And the title Coming creates this sense of anticipation at spring, and this idea that it's part of a broader facade that we put on ourselves. It could be an attack of the coming of Christ, latent in the concerns of how adults hide behind the veneer of respectability. And it's interesting to note this is set in a common middle-class scene of the back garden. So let's get into it, and I'd love for you to comment down below your thoughts on why Larkin seems so angry about the coming of spring. On longer evenings, light, chill and yellow bathes the serene foreheads of houses. A thrush sings, laurel sounded in the deep bare garden, its fresh peeled voice astonishing the brickwork. It will be spring soon, it will be spring soon. And I, whose childhood is a forgotten boredom, feel like a child who comes on a scene of adult reconciling and can understand nothing but the unusual laughter and starts to be happy. We're struck by the setting instantaneously of the long late winter evening as the sun sets over houses and this empty garden. There's a sense of discomfort and, well, it's deeply unsettling at times. Let's dig down into why. First off, that contrast between what we expect light to do on longer evenings and what it seems to do as we're directed in line 2. We expect the light to provide, well, warmth and brightness, but instead we're told that it's chill and yellow, which kind of couples this false sense of security for us as the alliteration in many ways of the L sounds creates this uncomfortable lulling of danger. The rhythm is really uncomfortable across this stanza. In particular, we're really struck by the way that this particular poem doesn't scan across the whole thing with regular metre. Lines end oftentimes unstressed, as if something is left unsaid. For example, evenings, yellow, serene. We're left with this sense of what is not being shared, which is actually the broader idea that Larkin is continually referring back to. As if that wasn't enough, there are only 3 verbs across stanza 1. So there's not much action happening. But equally, the use of these verbs makes us feel even more uncomfortable. For example, if we're to dig down on bathes, sings and astonishing, they each play an interesting role in acknowledging that things are not as they seem. We're told that the light bathes the serene foreheads of houses. That's an unusual verb choice to use when referring to light. Bathes is a verb we often associate with water, and more importantly, as I'll come on to in a moment, the light is bathing the serene foreheads of houses. If we dig down further into stanza 1, once the light fills the space, there's apparently nothing to see. It's just deep, bare garden. And it's interesting that we're forced into these guttural sounds as if we're exposing the nothingness. It's interesting also that hiding seems to be the recurring image and association. Even the birdsong is hidden by laurel leaves. And laurels are associated with Christ coming, with Christianity as well. So there's an interesting kind of play here on, is this about the struggles of not believing that Christ is coming also? But that verb sings is not fully exposed because it's as if the birds are not free to sing as they choose. So we're left this really uncomfortable sense of like, where are the signs of life here? Nothing is fully on show. Where are the people? Where is our speaker? Has he imagined this, or is he actually in this moment? It's interesting also that the absence of people leads us to personify, or at least what Larkin shows us is two personified images of both the house and the brickwork. The house is got its own forehead, we're told. And it's interesting that it's soaked up to its forehead in light, which seems as if it's drowning in the light, as if it can't take any more. And the sound of the thrush singing is astonishing the brickwork. The verb astonishing showing us the shock associated for the brickwork as if it were alive. So we're set into this awkward tension where there's simultaneously both nothing to be aware of, but also this imminent sense of danger that seems to be latent also with the connotations of words. For example, chill in line 2, you could associate with fear and coldness. The word surrounding with the laurel that's surrounded, well, we could associate that with being vulnerable or just being around different things. No matter how we want to play it, as we move into stanza 2, the repetition of the phrase, "it will be spring soon," seems ominous, not the joyful anticipation we would associate with usually. And I wonder if soon, that assonant oo sound, is partly responsible. By the time that phrase is repeated for the second time, there's a hyphen. We get this sense of interruption. And that, coupled with the conjunction and at the start of line 3 of stanza 2, is the Volta for us. And I, whose childhood is a forgotten boredom. Wow, that's an unusual play on the cliche that childhood is, the happiest times of your life. It's a forgotten boredom. The apathy and frustration of that is very clear. And then the simile, feel like a child who comes on a scene of adult reconciling. That simile is powerful. It heightens the awkwardness of the failings of adults when they try and hide things. Reconciling, that verb choice in particular, echoes this sense of stiff body language, forced senses of propriety, being good because you have to, and can understand nothing but the unusual laughter and starts to be happy. The way that a child is more vulnerable because they can't really understand what the social cues are. And so in a way, the speaker is saying that spring coming is all part of this fake joy that forms from a false mindset and confusion that is created by, either society, parents. He's warning of the dangers of facades in this poem. The unsettling awkwardness of, happy marriage, being well-to-do, middle-class ideals that don't help us. And so we're left with this interesting sense of nothingness. The void that is the anticipation of spring is false. In the comments down below, I'd love to know your thoughts. Why is Larkin so hell-bent in showing that the coming of spring, is a negative force, not the joyful awakening that we might usually associate? Why not subscribe to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar for all things English, literary and grammatical?